A very good evening to all of you, our distinguished guest, Your Excellency, Mr. Zayed Alzayani, Minister of Industry, Commerce and Tourism for the Kingdom of Bahrain, Your Excellency, Mr. Baybars Altuntas, Chairman of the World Business Angel Investment Forum, Your Excellency, Mr. Feryal Nass, Chairman of the GCC Chambers of Commerce and Chairman of the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Your Excellency, Mr. Rashed and Miraaj, Governor of the Central Bank of Bahrain, Your Excellency, Dr. Hashim Hussein, Head of UNIDO ITPO Bahrain Office, Your Excellency, Dr. Paul Downey, Rector, WBAF Business School, ladies and gentlemen around the world. I am honored to welcome you today to the WBAF first webinar, Insights from the Gulf region and Bahraini entrepreneurship landscape and innovation post-COVID-19. The road to the opening of WBAF Bahrain office was a journey in itself, and I am proud to announce that we have signed the agreement with WBAF headquarters and will be hosting an official launch post-COVID-19. The National Task Force for COVID-19, headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Salman bin Hamad bin Salman Al Khalifa, first deputy of the Prime Minister, has taken many tribes to protect the country. This roundtable will focus on the diverse and complex characteristics of the local and regional economics of Gulf countries, which leads to entrepreneurial vitality and which are instilling in firms, large and small alike, a spirit of international competitiveness that will serve them both during the pandemic and in the post-pandemic business environment. We will start our webinar by a welcoming speech by WBAF Executive Chairman, Mr. Baybars Altuntas. Please go ahead, Mr. Baybars.
Thank you very much, Feryal. Dear Mr. Minister Alzayani, dear BCCI President Feryal Nass, dear Governor Miraaj, dear Dr. Hussein of UNIDO, dear Dr. Danay of the Business School. I think this will be a great roundtable, and I am really thanking you so much to bring the Bahrain and also Gulf region's entrepreneurial ecosystem to the attention of the global investment markets and early stage equity markets in these difficult times. I think we should see the fact that today's governments understood the importance of startup economy and entrepreneurship and innovation, and they started to look practical ways to engage their economies with the global equity and investment markets more. I think I have to thank to Bahrain's policymakers first of all, because as a global organization and as an affiliated partner of the G20 Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion, which is chaired by the Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, where I am a board member, I can say that Bahrain is really on its way to become a regional innovation entrepreneurship hub center. This is not my first time attending an organization organized by Bahrain ecosystem. I was invited to Bahrain first time by Dr. Hashim Hussein, who is our very important board member, by the way, at WBAF, and he introduced the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Bahrain many years ago to me. And now, by time, I see that the developments of Bahrain became really a role model, not only for the region, but maybe for all the world. Bahrain is not a country of where 50 million, 100 million people are living. But when you Google entrepreneurship word, you see Bahrain is generally in the first two pages. I think this is giving an idea about the entrepreneurial spirit carried by policymakers, stakeholders, NGOs, and also SMEs and entrepreneurs of the country. So, Mr. Minister, we presented a report to G20 leaders in June through GPFI committee, and this report included the survey results we made in 81 countries. And survey results showed that digital inclusion is very, very important now in COVID times. And post-pandemic economic business environment will really be presenting competitive advantage for the countries which has better bandwidth, which has better infrastructure for communication. So I think it is very important to see that SMEs, entrepreneurs, and startups will have more competitive advantage if they can find an opportunity to turn their creative business ideas to reality when they have better bandwidth. We are very lucky because WBAF Business School is chaired by the former CEO of Turk Telecom, and he will, I think, in his closing remarks, will tap this issue more. I also want to highlight the importance of two words, which I think we will be using more in post-pandemic times: responsible finance and impact investment. These two words will be the key drivers of the Mr. COVID's economy. So governments maybe will consider developing co-investment funds with impact investors more after Mr. COVID leaves our world. So I am thanking so much to Feryal Nass because she initiated the first, she established the first country office in the Middle East and in GCC economies of WBAF. And I think this is also going to give great opportunities for Bahraini entrepreneurs. And in order them to reach smart finance, WBAF, I think, will play a key role in this process. I'm again thanking so much to His Excellency Samer Naz. When I was in Bahrain, we made a great memorandum of understanding together. And BCCI, Bahrain Chamber of Commerce International, is also a great partner for WBAF at the global level. Dr. Hashim Hussein always joins our annual congresses, and he is really a great supporter of our mission. We have three missions, Mr. Minister, dear Governor, dear Presidents. Easing access to finance for entrepreneurs and SMEs, promoting gender equality, and increasing financial inclusion in the world. Dr. Hussein is a great supporter of our mission while trying to promote the gender equality and bringing the women entrepreneurship to the attention of the global investors. I am again thanking you so much for your participation, and I think this roundtable will be a very rewarding experience for all participants, and the recorded version, I am sure, will be downloaded many times. Dear Feryal Nass, thank you very much for your efforts to make Bahrain a more entrepreneurial country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baybars, for a very great welcoming speech. And now we will move to our keynote speaker, His Excellency Mr. Zayed Rashed Alzayani, Minister of Industry, Commerce and Tourism for the Kingdom of Bahrain. Please, Mr. Zayed.
Thank you very much, Feryal. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it gives me great pleasure to be amongst you all this evening in this virtual gathering to discuss a very rich subject, a subject that we take dearly in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism, and it's on the top priorities of the agendas of the government of Bahrain. The Kingdom of Bahrain has responded to the impact of the current global pandemic in a very fast and efficient manner, starting with precautionary measures 3 weeks prior to identifying the first positive case in Bahrain. We followed that in March 2020 with the BD 4.3 billion financial and economic stimulus package that is equivalent to 32% of Bahrain's GDP, and we did that as a front-loading measure to support the economy at the start of the pandemic. While composing the contents of this package, it was paramount to gear a lot of the initiatives towards the startup and SME communities, taking into account their prone vulnerability to such disturbance or disruptions in the market. Hence, Bahraini employees' salaries were fully covered by the government. Bahraini employees' salaries in the private sector were fully covered by the government for the second quarter of 2020 to the tune of 215 million Bahraini dinars. There was a doubling of the liquidity support fund to 200 million dinars. The government undertook to pay the full cost of electricity, water, and municipal tax fees for the quarter. The central bank, led by His Excellency, my colleague Rashed Miraaj, did a lot of work with the local banks, and they've eased up 3.7 billion dinars worth of financial credit lines to the local banks. That all contributed to giving stability in the market at a very early stage of this pandemic. The aim was simply to sustain these businesses, keep them operating while maintaining as many jobs and preventing job loss at a very early stage of this pandemic. Keeping in mind that this pandemic, nobody really could forecast how long it would last or when it will end, but it was very important to give a strong stimulus at the beginning, so you give more of a lifeline to the businesses operating in the economy. There was a second wave of a stimulus package, which we launched for the third quarter at the beginning of July. And this was more targeted and focused. It was geared towards the most adversely affected sectors in the economy, and we identified them into certain sectors. And there, obviously, the package was much smaller and much more targeted and much more specialized. Nevertheless, we still covered 50% of all Bahrainis working in the private sector, all their salaries. That was covered by the government. We decided to waive all CR and business activity fees for the year 2020. So even those who paid something in the first 6 months of the year would have been reimbursed. We've decided as well to eliminate the rent on the industrial land for any exporters exporting more than 30% of their products out of Bahrain, to encourage exports and to help them, especially with the problems they faced in the logistics around the world, and as well to waive the tourism levy on the tourism sector. As a focus on the SME, it really started before the COVID pandemic. In the year 2018, we decided to launch a national strategy for the SME sector. There was a board specially created and named the SME Development Board. And that board was entrusted with launching a 5-year strategy to build the SME sector in Bahrain, looking at the whole ecosystem, not just from the perspective of the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism. The board has started work then. It identified 3 major KPIs. The first one was increasing the number of Bahrainis employed by the SME sector from 36,000 to 42,000. The second was increasing the SME sector contribution to GDP from 30 to 40%. And the third one was increasing SME sector share of Bahraini exports from 8 to 20%. By the end of 2019, almost 2 years into the strategy, we had reached 41,000 employees, so we were 1,000 short of our 5-year target. We have reached 37% of the GDP contributed by the SME sector, and 17% of our exports were being done by the SME sector. We were well on track to achieve our 2022 targets within the year 2020. But then, as you said, Mr. Baybars, Mr. COVID arrived. And I would like to object for you referring to him as a masculine, because we think she's feminine. But maybe in Turkey you believe he's masculine. But in the age of women equality, I think we should refer to her as COVID, just so that we keep the women happy and equal. So back to that, part of that, the way we achieved this, we went about it, is that we set 21 initiatives. So we were quite detailed in how to achieve these objectives and these KPIs. And each initiative had its own vertical and plan of execution. By the end of 2019, we had completely fulfilled 13 of them, which was about 60% of the goal. So we were up to a flying start. Then, we had to face this new world order, and we have to look at that in a new perspective. While developing the business plan and looking at these KPIs and verticals, we realized very early in the game that access to finance was one of the major obstacles faced by a startup or an SME. Hence, it is no surprise that out of the 21 initiatives, 8 of them are directly related to financial issues. We don't believe in giving money for the sake of giving money. We believe in building up capacity. So you do it once and the person can upgrade their skills and continue to be earning, rather than just making him living off subsidies or grants for the rest of his or her business life. So the whole idea was how to build up capacity, how to create avenues for them, pipelines that they can, if they work hard and they take it seriously, they'll have a much better chance of succeeding. Out of these 8 financial related initiatives, 4 were achieved by the year 2019. 2 major ones. One was $100 million Al-Waha fund of funds, which was aimed at investing in startups and SMEs, and that was launched. And the second one was launching Bahrain investment market on our Bahrain Bourse. The aim of this market was to look at smaller capped businesses, make it easier for them to list and to access capital funding, which is something in the very early stages of infancy in Bahrain and the GCC generally speaking. So we wanted to promote the idea of seeking public funding rather than relying on private funds or the banking system or the government without looking at the wider public like we see in the developed economies in Western Europe, Asia, and North America. Another initiative out of the 21, which we feel very proud about, and we encourage all startups and SMEs in Bahrain to look at quite seriously, is Export Bahrain, which we launched in November 2018. For the simple fact that Bahrain is a very small market, and we wanted to encourage our local businesses to look beyond Bahrain and to think of export. And when we say export, we don't necessarily mean products or manufacturing. We also include export of services. So we can do soft product, which is talent, services, consultancy, know-how, and that we will be able to help them through Export Bahrain. The good news is that we've continued to have success even in the COVID era. And in these challenging times, Export Bahrain has managed to grow the SME exports, and we intentionally blocked out the bigger companies and the larger businesses out of export Bahrain, because we wanted to focus all our resources and our energy to support the smaller companies in the economy, on the basis that the bigger companies are big enough to find their own way and they probably already export anyways. So in this period of less than 2 years, and specifically in the COVID era, we have enjoyed great success. And the first 7 months of 2020, we have experienced a 65% growth in export business compared to the full year of 2019. So in 7 months of this awful year, we managed to do 65% more business than the 12 months of 2019. And we are proud to say that 26% of those who use the facilities or the services of Export Bahrain were newcomers to the export market. They had never exported anything outside of Bahrain. So we were now opening up to them the new markets in 34 countries around the world, covering 5 continents around the world. And half of those exporters were service-oriented and not product-oriented. So we opened up a sector that was traditionally thought of as very localized and very specialized. With COVID-19 challenges upon us, we didn't stand still. We started moving with stronger resolve to adapt to this new reality. It's very evident now that it's going to take a while to adjust, and we're going to have to live with this system of doing business for a while. And therefore, we realized that our time shouldn't be wasted on sulking about what has been achieved or what could have been achieved, but it was of the essence that we become agile and nimble and move and find new ways and avenues. It is for this reason that the government of Bahrain chose to follow a balanced approach between health and economic activities. In the beginning, we had to obviously focus on the health, and we addressed the health and safety of citizens and residents of Bahrain, but we never lost focus of our economy. And through the past few months, we are very proud to say that we never resorted to a total lockdown in Bahrain. We're one of the very few countries in the world where we didn't have a complete shutdown. Our government, medical services, our banking, our industry, our food supply, our basic goods supply sectors remained open and fully functional. So did our ports. Our airport didn't close for a single day, keeping Bahrain well connected to the world and operating internally. At this point, I would like to also salute all our frontliners who have endured hardship and sacrifice to make our daily lives more comfortable. They have put in a lot of effort and a lot of long hours being away from their families and loved ones to protect us, to make our life safer and the life of our families, and we owe them a lot of gratitude for that, and I would just like to formally thank them for that on this occasion. I also have to be very proud, to be honest, of how the citizens and the residents of Bahrain have acted maturely and responsibly in observing social distancing and the health precautions. This has all resulted in a better way for us to combat this pandemic. It couldn't have been done just on government. It had to be a full effort from everybody in Bahrain. Today, we are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Numbers of active cases is coming down. There's much more higher recovery rates. Bahrain, for the last couple of months, we've maintained recovery rates in the high 90th percentile of cases. Actually, yesterday it was 96%. And with the vaccine hopefully coming in the next few months, we see things moving back to normality. But this is again a testimony to the vision and successful leadership to His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Crown Prince, Supreme Commander and First Deputy Prime Minister, and the commitment and resolve of all inhabitants of Bahrain. I think this is a truly genuine effort, and in Bahrain we have a slogan we call Team Bahrain. And it doesn't belong to government, it doesn't belong to the private sector, it doesn't belong to any individual, it belongs to everybody who contributes in his or her own way to make Bahrain a better place to live, a better place to do business, a better place to have your kids growing. And I think this was Team Bahrain at its best. People exercised their social responsibility on a personal level. Government lived up to its responsibility, taking care of the citizens and the residents of Bahrain. The private sector played a role. And I think all together we have managed to make Bahrain safer, better, and more comfortable place to live during this hardship. We are equally proud as well of the way our business community has adapted and reacted to the new circumstances. We saw new products and services flourishing, as well as new marketing ideas and channels being born, using modern technology like you mentioned earlier, and innovation rather than relying on the traditional ways. Within a month of the ministry launching the first Bahraini marketplace portal, which we called eMall, in April 2020, we have had almost 200 local businesses join our website, and many, many more who had never used e-marketing or e-commerce, expressing their interest and showing strong commitment to join and to develop their infrastructure to be able to take advantage of such new methods. This has compelled us in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism to push forward in developing a whole new ecosystem that we plan to launch as a national strategy for e-commerce before the end of 2020, which will include as well new legislation to regulate the e-commerce landscape. As I conclude, I would like to reassure the esteemed participating audience that Bahrain is committed to developing its startup community and SME sector. In fact, we see them as the new hope for developing our economy. I would also like to seize this opportunity to invite the established private sector to take a closer look at collaborating with these communities by ways of investment, mentoring, opening doors, networking. The timing has never been better, given the political commitment, the abundant talent, and the availability of finance, providing the right ingredients and opportunity to create more success stories for the future. I equally invite our startup and SME communities to think big from day one and never curtail their ambitions. Let the world be their oyster, and don't be reluctant to seek assistance of those who have embarked on this journey before you. If you are struggling, don't hold on to your dream with a tight fist and end up suffocating it. Share your success with others who can help you realize it and make it grow. Be part of a success rather than own 100% of the failure. Take advantage of today's ever-increasing offering available to you from both government as well as the private sector opportunities. In closing, I would like to thank Mrs. Feryal Nass for inviting us today, for giving us this platform, and also express my gratitude to Mr. Baybars Altuntas and the members of WBAF for organizing this session. We are proud of what has been achieved in Bahrain, and would like to thank you, the private sector, the SME community, for developing a nice sense of collaboration and showing responsibility in terms of the operating rules. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for a very important keynote speech that gave us a good insight of the Bahraini entrepreneurship and innovation landscape, and for the great initiatives that Your Excellency and the government is working on to serve the entrepreneurship ecosystem and the SMEs and startups in Bahrain. We will move on now to our next speaker, His Excellency Mr. Feryal Nass, Chairman of the GCC Chambers of Commerce and Chairman of the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Please, Mr. Feryal. Go ahead.
Well, I didn't think I was going to give a speech. I thought we were going to have an open panel questionnaires. But Thank you, Feryal, for inviting us to participate in this panel. I think it's an important subject. I would like to greet Mr. Baybars and His Excellency Mr. Zayed Alzayani and His Excellency Rashed. And everybody that is participating in this. I would like to thank you on behalf of I would like to extend my greetings by the board members of the Chamber of Commerce and the entire business community. And it's my pleasure to participate with you in this panel, discussion panel. The Bahrain Chamber of Commerce have played a major role in monitoring the effect of business and economy of this pandemic in the country. And we have worked very closely with the government of Bahrain and looking at and studying the behavior and the business movement in terms of the effect of this. We know that the whole business and the economies is a global effect, and in terms of how we could counteract or fight the pandemic. And thanks to the government of Bahrain and the front soldiers in the medical field that are really fighting this pandemic, but also on the other side, the economic and effect. Also, the government of Bahrain played a major role in sustaining the economy and working with us closely in designing the stimulus plan at the Chamber of Commerce in several fronts. The first thing that we have done in identifying the ways of on how the economy is shaping is creating surveys and studies on what are the effects of the different sectors and most affected different sectors from the Chamber of Commerce. We have done several surveys that showed us huge effect what this pandemic did in different sectors, especially the tourism industry and the tourism industry and airline industries and so many sectors in different levels have been really affected. With that, I think we have submitted a lot of reports on this, and based on that, the design of the stimulus plans was done, and the first and the second one. We have done, so far we notice that there is a huge drop of businesses. The GDP contribution to restaurants and hotel sectors in Bahrain has decreased by about 36%, for example, which is really, really bad. And as per response of the survey, also we acknowledge that the essential role to mitigate negative impact on this pandemic was as 73% of business owners have benefited from the government stimulus, but we feel that the overall business, what we feel is that this is only a temporary solution for what is going to be coming. We feel that post-COVID-19, there will be a lot of changes in the business shape of the business map and in the industry or the different sectors. The way people will do business will be different. We notice, for example, 61% of electronic transactions and online shopping has increased tremendously. Transactions shopping online is in the increase. There will be a reshaping of the economy. What we're going to be seeing in the next post COVID-19, it's not going to be business as usual. I think we're going to be moving into a different. We are coming faster into more electronic and electronic utilization of businesses, and all the systems and technologies were there, but wasn't used as efficiently as it used to be. But now I think the pandemic had created the opportunity for people to utilize the technologies available to do business. So, and I feel there is also a lot of businesses that are going to have to restructure themselves to meet the challenges post COVID-19. And also the recovery plan, the recovery period is not going to be as fast as we expect. It's going to be a slow recovery. There will be a confidence build-up that should take place post COVID-19. We think that the government spending also will be affected because of the oil prices, especially in the Gulf region. Oil prices is playing a big effect on how the economies are going to shape up and how the speed of recovery is going to take place. Having a lot of countries in the region have created huge stimulus plans to overcome the downturn of businesses and the economy and sustaining employment in countries and their budget, and then there's big curves. I mean, for example, 30% of Bahrain's GDP was allocated to sustain business and support salaries and employment. And we thank really the government of Bahrain for really acting very fast on this to maintain employment. And I think Bahrain took a leading part in reducing the effect of losses of jobs. I think the post COVID-19, we will see a change in the shape of also the workplace or the workers' shape. We see there will be a reduction in Bahrain as an economy for expat workers. There will be a retuning on policies to stimulate more Bahraini employment in different sectors. The way we do business in general will be different. I see it. We forecast very slow recovery in tourism, and unless there is going to be confidence build-up by public. We notice also the habit of purchases and employment. I mean, consumer habits are changing. That will shape up also how businessmen are going to do shape up their businesses to meet the requirement of public. So overall, there is a lot of unknowns. I think we see post COVID-19, on how we go forward. We feel that we have not, the business community had been pampered. Bahrain business community was pampered by the government of Bahrain. Post-September, we'll see the real picture, exactly how business are going to be affected. What's that? Yes. The cash flow, I think also with that downturn in businesses, we feel that there will be a lot of pressure on courts, commercial courts. There will be claims. There will be a lot of cases, commercial cases between businesses due to a lot of business finding it difficult to sustain themselves, which will translate into cases in courts. So there are tough times ahead of us, but we feel that with the government of Bahrain help and the business community, the private sector, I think we can overcome the difficulties to come in the next 2 to 3 years. As per the survey, the business community that we see that 70% of business community are confident that there will be a fast recovery. But I hope 2 to 3 years, yes. I hope that this takes place, but in my personal opinion, I think it's overconfident. But anyway, thank you very much, Feryal, for everybody for participating. Thanks.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Feryal Nass. And definitely the survey that the BCCI came up with gave us a good information about the post-COVID-19 and what are the expected businesses effect or the effect on different businesses. We will move on now to our next speaker, His Excellency Mr. Rashed Al-Miraaj, Governor of the Central Bank of Bahrain. Please, Mr. Rashed, go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you, first of all, to invite me to this event. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate you for this new partnership, and I hope this will open up a new networking venues for your members from Bahrain. This is also a good step for the local Bahraini entrepreneurs to have build a new relationship with an established platform that hopefully will bring them more experience and knowledge. The central bank, realizing the potential for technology and finance, over the last 3 years when we started the first regulatory sandbox in the region, we attracted a lot of talents, some of them Bahraini, some of them from outside. And I'm happy to say that after 3 years, experimenting with the new ideas, largely started by small companies and individuals, we see a lot of interest. Some of them have already graduated and moved to the open markets. This testing ground that we have provided over the last 3 years with light touch regulations gave the participant in this sandbox, first of all, regulatory environments where they can test their products, use volunteers, and hopefully within a period of time, not more than 12 months, they will be ready to be licensed as a full company regulated by the central banks. We have already 5 companies that have graduated from our sandbox, and I am happy to announce today that we are now thinking or in the final stage of launching a digital sandbox. This also will be much easier and more convenience to the entrepreneur communities, not in Bahrain, but even outside Bahrain. We very much value the role of entrepreneurs, the young, with bright ideas, and our role as a central bank in connection with what my colleagues, His Excellency Mr. Zayani indicated, that the role of SMEs and entrepreneurs in Bahrain is at the top of our agenda, and we will provide any kind of support and putting in the right mix of regulation, supervision, support, so that these companies evolve and thrive and attract more employments and hopefully graduate to become bigger businesses. This is the only venue open for us to grow our economy. Our economy is dominated by small and medium scale industries. And we know that during the pandemic, most of them have experienced difficulty. But I think, as was explained by my colleague, Mr. Zayani, that the government took extra measures in order to provide the right cushions for them to avoid, the dramatic effect of this pandemic, not only in the local industries, but globally. Hopefully now with the second wave of this support package, we will be targeting those companies that are much in need of the support. And by the progress of our economy and by the measures that we have taken, I think we will, to a large extent, reduce the impact, the negative impact of this crisis, of this pandemic on our economy. The results that we have so far from different departments indicate that there are stability in some of the key industries, and obviously the industries that are very much affected by the closure of the causeway and the tourist arrival will take some time. But to a large extent, most of our industries, like the manufacturing, the financial sectors, these are the biggest sectors in Bahrain, have managed to go through this so far with very little impact in terms of financial impact or the slowdown in their activities. On the central bank side, I think we will continue to fine-tune our regulations, our licensing processes, in order to make it easier for those who are interested to participate in our financial sector. And I urge all those who are interested in starting their businesses as in the financial sectors to try our sandbox, because this is the environment where they can test their ideas and hopefully graduate and join the rest of the wider sector. I'll leave it at this end, and I just want to again to thank you and to wish you all success. And hopefully when we discuss, if there is time, we can elaborate on more issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Rashed. And we definitely, without the CBB facilitations, the WBAF cannot have its impact in the Bahrain entrepreneurship ecosystem. We will definitely need your support. We will move on now to our next speaker, His Excellency Dr. Hashim Hussain, Head of UNIDO ITPO Bahrain Office. Dr. Hashim, please.
Well, I've been asked to provide a short statement, and then after that, I will leave my intervention to focus more on the SMEs and entrepreneurship in Bahrain and the Gulf region during the pandemic and post the pandemic, inshallah, hopefully. Your Excellency, Mr. Zayed Alzayani, the Minister of Industry and Commerce and Tourism of Bahrain, my friend and brother, Mr. Baybars Altuntas, the chairman of the World Business Angel Forum, Your Excellency, Mr. Zayed Nass, the chairman of the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the chairman of the Federation of the GCC Chambers, Your Excellency, Mr. Rashed Miraaj, the governor of the Central Bank of Bahrain, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Today, it gives me a great honor, really, to be part of this high-level virtual panel organized by the World Business Angel Forum Bahrain Country Office under the theme GCC Focus, Regional Transformation of Gulf Economies through Entrepreneurship as a Response of the COVID-19. The World 2030 Agenda and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals from the UN point of view focuses on 5 themes of critical importance to humanity, namely people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. The emphasis on people as a prime priority is that humans represent the core element that would ensure the achievement of these goals. As people will preserve the planet, achieve the prosperity, attain our everlasting peace, and create partnership. Hence, today and tomorrow, our collective efforts and actions should be primarily to converge on people should we desire to make this shift and ensure the world harmony. Of course, the cost of solving the world's most critical problems runs into the trillions, included and estimated as of today of 2.5 trillion annual funding gap needed to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in developing countries alone. And today, coupled with this COVID-19 outbreak, worldwide, this gap is much bigger. Hence, the private capital, so financial institutions, private investors, business angels, and entrepreneurs is urgently needed in order to fill this gap and address pressing global challenges. The position we took from early 2000 at the UNIDO Investment Technology Promotion Office and through our Arab International Center for Entrepreneurship and Investment hosted in the Kingdom of Bahrain is that economic empowerment is the key driver in meeting all needs. Today, once again, with the SDGs, we firmly believe that economic empowerment will produce the biggest impact, and that investing in entrepreneurs to become global entrepreneurs, this is our new theme in Bahrain and to the world, will create a multiplier effect, not only at the entrepreneur's level alone, but will also create a positive ripple effect on his or her family, society, communities, and of course, the national economy as a whole. Our 25 years of progressive experience in promoting economic financial inclusion out of Bahrain and developing entrepreneurship programs in more than 52 countries around the world today through the UNIDO Enterprise Development and Investment Promotion Program, known in the UN as the Bahrain model, has led us to the conclusion that development requires a holistic approach that entails strategic partnership between the private and the public sector that adapt to changing market conditions and is based on 2 main pillars: non-financial services being an integral part of the provision of financial services. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the success of the IDIB Bahrain model achieved is linked to the fact that we worked on enhancing the ecosystem for promoting domestic investment, which leads definitely to the mobilization of foreign direct investment. This was possible through our strategic partnership over the years with the Kingdom of Bahrain, represented first by the Minister of Industry, Commerce and Tourism, the Minister of Finance and National Economy, the Bahrain Development Bank, Tamkeen, and of course, the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the advocate of the private sector in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Financial institutions, commercial and developmental, NGOs, and the educational system as a whole, from schools to universities. Bahrain today ranks well in terms of entrepreneurs, and also I assure my friend Baybars, yes, the ecosystem of Bahrain have been growing over the years, and yes, today we in the UN system, Bahrain entrepreneurs, Bahrain model is well known worldwide, and we continue with the different partners, the stakeholders, government, private sector, NGOs, to improve the ecosystem for startup and growth through incubations, accelerators. However, there is a big room for enhancing more and more the ecosystem for the micro, small, and medium businesses. The Central Bank of Bahrain is taking a leading role, and this is very important for the session of today because we're talking about financial inclusion, and this is all about WBAF has been playing a leading role, the Central Bank of Bahrain, in regulating and facilitating different financial schemes and modalities from microfinance to crowdfunding and today angel financing and others. Hence, I myself believe that the future activities of WBAF, and me being as a member over the last 4 years, I have seen the growing influence worldwide of WBAF in the financial inclusion at different countries, different regions of the world. This office, or this country office, will be an important milestone and achievement toward re-energizing the financial ecosystem in Bahrain and the region for the development of entrepreneurs, which goes in line, of course, with the United Nations drive toward financial inclusion, which is an important and integral part of the SDGs. We once again express our sincere appreciation and the foresight for the World Business Angel Forum for establishing a first country office in Bahrain to be the first in the Arab region, and reiterate our firm support, we as the UNIDO Investment and Technology Promotion Office, to ensure its success and as an added value to the Bahraini SMEs and entrepreneurship ecosystem, and to be a new model for the Arab region and to the world. I would like to end just to thank Mrs. Feryal Nass, which have managed in a very short time to bring this today's distinguished speakers, to bring them together for maybe one of the first activities of the country office of the WBAF. Also, I extend my remark to my colleague, Mr. Paul Downey, who is director of the Business Angel School, who will provide us his remark and insights at the end of this panel, hopefully. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Feryal.
Thank you, Dr. Hashim, for your insights and for your brief statement. Now we will go for the questions. We will start with two. We will give 2 questions for each panelist, if you allow me, and we will make it into 2 rounds because we are receiving so many questions actually, but I don't think we have enough time and we don't want to keep you for a very long time. The first question is for His Excellency, Mr. Zayed Alzayani. The first question is saying, following the Labor Fund, Tamkeen's cash injection in the form of a grant to SMEs, what steps has the MOIC taken to ensure financial recovery and growth post-COVID-19?
I think the recovery doesn't fall on any one party in any nation. It is a combined effort between government, the private sector, the NGOs, the chambers of commerce. Everybody has to chip in, and everybody has to play their socially responsible part. Not just to be somebody who's expecting help, but who's also willing to give a sacrifice and extend help to others who may need it. The more everybody puts in, the quicker the nation can recover and everybody can be a winner at the end of the day. What we have done, as I said in my opening remarks, is that we took the first initiative as a government, and not specifically the ministry, but we are part of the government package, to give a big injection at the very beginning of this pandemic. So we tried to, battle the cancer at the very beginning and not let it grow and spread and cause a domino effect in our various sectors. It has sent a very positive signal for confidence in businesses in Bahrain. It has helped people to not even, some of them continued even with investing.
It's 8 o'clock.
And it has opened up new sectors that didn't exist in Bahrain, which would people who saw an opportunity to develop a business that didn't exist or a module that didn't work in the past but worked works wonderfully today. What I would like to see personally, or I'd like to reverse that question, is to say, what is the private sector going to do to the private sector? We've all seen governments stepping up, not just Bahrain, and doing something of a different size, of a different magnitude. But I think there is a huge responsibility on the private sector now to work together. The responsibility extends from the top or the bigger companies to help the ones smaller than them. And the responsibility also extends between the lower layers in the companies to be responsible and to think actively on how to survive this pandemic. This is what I again touched up briefly on in my opening remarks, is that instead of attaching yourself and becoming sentimentally attached to a business and struggling with it and losing sleep over it and damaging your social life and your family life, start thinking of different approaches. Start thinking of merging with your competitors. Start thinking of selling. Start thinking of partially selling, listing, seeking public funding. These are all new concepts to us in Bahrain and probably the GCC. We are predominantly a family-led business community where families like to retain their businesses. I mean, Nass Group is an excellent example of a company that went public. The one very few companies that did that, and I salute Allah yarhamah al-Walid Abdulla Nass for his vision and everybody involved in that exercise. And it's a good example for people to learn. And they didn't do it because of need. They did it because of continuity. Today we live in a time where you might be forced to do it because of need. And there are vehicles for it. Let them explore these vehicles more and let them work collectively on saving each other, not to work in isolation from one another. I think the front part was done by government. I would expect the chamber to play a much bigger role now in the coming phases to keep the momentum going, to act as a mediator between these. At the end of the day, most of them or all of them belong as members to the same chamber. We are lucky in Bahrain that we have one chamber. It's the oldest chamber in the region, so they're quite well connected and experienced. And this is the time where the business community now needs to step up and help each other out. Government will always be there, and government will not shy away from its responsibility, nor will Tamkeen. And I think Tamkeen has played a huge part in doing that, not just in the COVID pandemic, throughout the 12 years history of Tamkeen. It has always been there for startups, for businesses, and it's helped a lot of sectors in the economy in Bahrain and given a lot of opportunity to Bahrainis and Bahraini employees.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Definitely, I mean, the private sector should support the private sector again. And I think one of the objectives of the WBAF is the angel investing, which is another financial inclusion. It's another source of fund, which I think we should utilize and build on it to serve the Bahraini ecosystem, entrepreneurship ecosystem. We will move on to His Excellency Mr. Feryal Nass, and a question for him that came. It says, the statistics from the survey show an alarming percentage of failure due to the pandemic. Does the BCCI have any strategies to assist for this coming problems that we might face?
Well, I mean, we as Chamber of Commerce, we put up several surveys. I think now we have done 2 surveys. Yes. And then the 2 surveys gave us an indication of how the businesses are going in terms of the difficulties that businesses, the role of the Chamber of Commerce basically is to assist and to inform and to communicate the problems of business communities with the executive body, which is the government of Bahrain, and at the same time look at ways where we can help them sustain themselves by giving them guidelines, management guidelines, or mediate in case of there are differences between business owners, and try to reduce the negative impact. There is also a misconception by the business community that the Chamber of Commerce is a charity organization for business community. It's not a charity organization. Please, I think a lot of business community think that being a member of the Chamber of Commerce gives them an insurance in case they lose money. The Chamber of Commerce is going to be supporting it. It's not a charity organization. It's not a society for that, to support businesses from this angle. But we can help guide and give management guidance, study maybe the problem of any businesses, for example, and give some kind of recommendation and recommend certain things, and also introduce them to certain institutions that help businesses. We can, as His Excellency Zayed, that help do mergers, partnerships, introduce them into concepts of these to at least sustain their existence, given the downturn business and overall volume of trade, reduce competition. I mean, ideas of these sorts of things, we are willing to sit and sit and talk and give guidelines. But from financial assistance will be very, we don't have the ability to sustain such a thing, given we have about 44,000 members. 44,000 members, if we, whatever the Chamber of Commerce has in its benefits, we'll distribute maybe 50 dinars or 10 dinars for each business. And then that's it, and we close the business. So the mandate of the Chamber of Commerce is not to do financial assistance and to support, but we can help from other angles.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Feryal Nass. We will move on to Mr. Rashed and Miraaj. The question says, what are the CBB's plans to ensure financial inclusion in post-COVID-19 Bahrain? And what are the challenges of financial inclusions in the Kingdom of Bahrain? And how can policies be created to rectify these?
You're mute.
Yeah, okay. This is a very difficult question at this late hour, but I'll try to answer it. First of all,
answer as much as you can. I mean,
first of all, I think when you talk about financial inclusion in Bahrain, it is one of our main objectives, and that's why banking services is made available to every citizens, and those from the expatriates community who cannot afford to open a bank, we have licensed a special categories of companies, we call them payment service providers, to offer a service, a semi-banking services to this guest workers. So when it comes to financial inclusion, as we define it in the central bank, we have all facilities open to everyone in Bahrain, regardless of the gender, age, and nationalities. But if you mean access to capital, this is a different thing. But that is, within this context, I think there are venues in Bahrain where access to capital is fairly available, provided there is the right condition for it. Tamkeen is providing this. Bahrain Development Bank is providing this. We have also licensed recently, I think a year ago, a crowdfunding platform. This is part of our initiatives to enlarge the type of companies that can offer alternative finance to small and start.
He muted himself.
I think you have muted yourself, yeah.
What is our plan for the situation after the pandemic? Honestly speaking, the less regulation we put, the better. For the startups and for the entrepreneurs, the idea is to encourage them and to provide them with as much space as possible to start introducing their ideas and implementing them with a view that there is the right regulations to protect them. But if they move into under the umbrella and the license and becoming a licensee of the central bank, obviously there is a menu of regulations depending on their class of activities. At the end of the day, when we look at any licensee, we take into consideration a few things. The KYC, the AML safety, which is anti-money laundering, and the risk to the financial stability in Bahrain, and consumer protection. So we don't want to overload the startups and the entrepreneurs with this menu that fits probably a mature organizations. So unless there are constraints that probably impede these companies to progress. That's why we offer the sandbox. The sandbox will give them the flexibility to experience their ideas, test them, and understand what does it take to work under a regulated environment. And this probably takes them 6 to 12 months, and then they can graduate. They can also choose not to be a licensee of the central bank. If they have a technology solutions, they can just get a commercial license and operate like any other commercial companies. So the sandbox is not limited to any company that will offer a regulated service. But we open it up for anybody or company or small company that has ideas with technology, be it to serve the financial sectors or the community at large.
While you're answering, actually, I received a request from someone who was asking for the link for the digital sandbox. How can they get to it?
No, we are working on it. Hopefully by end of August, we will be ready and we will be hopefully announcing it.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We will move for His Excellency Dr. Hashim Hussein. The first question will be, the UNIDO ITPO has been active in Bahrain and the region for over 20 years. How does you foresee the ecosystem for SMEs in Bahrain and the region?
Thank you, Freya. Well, we have always enjoyed being here in Bahrain at the UN office because of the partnership which we have developed with the different stakeholders of the government and the private sector, namely, the Minister of Industry and Commerce and Tourism. We're in direct contact and dialogue with the SME Directorate and with all different levels, from the Minister to the Deputy Minister and to the Assistant Deputy Minister. We are in direct contact to enhance the ecosystem for SMEs in Bahrain. During the COVID, of course, we started to believe that this challenge is really pushing and moving us forward to the digital revolution. In just a few months, we started to learn more and more how to be on the online services. Nowadays, in the last 3 months, well, we have taken our office home, or we brought our home to the office. I believe that we have started thinking more, working more, and we have, over the last 3 months, developed a number of programs related to what we call entrepreneur's resilience. Actually, we have been inspired, with the energy, I would say that, and the enthusiasm of the Bahraini entrepreneurs. I wouldn't say all small and medium enterprises, with the COVID and with what's coming with the digitalization process and the fourth industrial revolution, we realize that there are a lot of SMEs companies in Bahrain, they may not be there, So either they move into the second level of, they have acquired the good skills of entrepreneurship, so they have to start either bringing new enterprises in new products or services, or they will face quite difficulties which have shown immediately and will be seen it very in the very near future with COVID-19. So in our partnership, mainly with the stakeholders and the private sector, we developed a very interesting program, which now also have been taken to the UN, is online services for mentoring. We have started by the business counselors at our office to provide mentoring from day one to the entrepreneurs, and then how to bring them to the different layout with the different stakeholders in Bahrain. And we started, actually, we were building on that. It is a new program, we call it Global Entrepreneur, by, of course, starting from Bahrain, but this is going to be a global program, how entrepreneurs can go global, because we have the hat of investment promotion. We mainly work in developing joint ventures between local entrepreneurs and foreign investors. Now, we have a good number of Bahraini entrepreneurs which have been shown very clearly in the figures of His Excellency, Mr. Zayed Alzayani, that they are able, in that even short time, in providing that the support services, they manage to start exporting their services and products. So the idea of the global entrepreneur, that we are bringing global entrepreneurs, financial institutions to invest on Bahraini entrepreneurs, on equity participation, on buyback arrangement, in technology transfer and know-how, adaptation of technology. And this is why the business angels is going to play a very important role. I believe it's going to be a win-win situation for WBAF and Bahrain, because achievements and successes will be coming very soon in Bahrain, when we will start really investing in programs for business angels. And we don't say business angels will be coming only from Bahrain. The WBAF program will open Bahraini entrepreneurs to business angels worldwide, how we will bring them to business angels worldwide. And business angeling, it's provide access to finance, but it provides mentoring, it provides business counseling, it provides market outlet, it provides all what we call in the investment cycle for a Bahraini entrepreneurs to go global. We started from last week another program, and Feryal Nass is one of them. We call them volunteer mentors. And we had a very good number of volunteer mentors that are entrepreneurs themselves. And we started mentoring other entrepreneurs. From tomorrow, we're going to have international mentors. They're going to mentor Bahraini entrepreneurs. We jointly also working with, nowadays, just 2 weeks back, we have developed a committee with Tamkeen. It's called Janido Tamkeen Committee. And this is mainly to look into the strategy of Bahrain, of Tamkeen, 21-23, the 3 years, and mainly we'll focus on how we will ensure sustainability and growth of certain SMEs in certain clusters within certain sectors, which it will come back again to that program, which we call it Global Entrepreneurs. So the ecosystem is ever enhancing. Of course, now with the establishment of the board of the SMEs, which is mainly the Ministry of Industry, is heading this. And during our daily activities and interaction with the SMEs directorate in the ministry, we work in bringing all of this honeycomb from financial and non-financial support institutions to Bahraini entrepreneurs. With the COVID, within the COVID, and of course we will continue with the post-COVID, and we are in a very high time that the WBAF is coming to launch in the very near future the office operations in the Kingdom of Bahrain.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hashim. The next question will be for His Excellency, the Minister, Mr. Zayed Alzayani. One of the hardest hit sectors of COVID-19 is real estate and development. What are the strategies to revive this sector, and what are the forecasts for that?
I think real estate is probably one of the most sensitive sectors to the economy because it is impacted by all other sectors of the economy. When you have a boom in any other sector, real estate tends to benefit quicker. And when you have a decline in other sector, probably real estate was one of the first sectors that faces, abandonment or more occupancy. There are two types of real estate, in my opinion. One is the speculative type, which people go into real estate investment just to flip a property and make a quick profit and return. That is the more risky one. If you take real estate on a longer term, if you're a real estate investor, not a developer, and you buy and sell real estate, but for a longer period of time, over time, I think you'll average out and you'll do well. But you have to have the patience. Leverage is a big destroyer of real estate. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who go into real estate put very little equity in and leverage it up to the max, thinking that they, or banking on the capital gains that it will be sufficient enough to settle the debt and make a profit. And that's where you can go wrong with real estate. It is one of our largest sectors in Bahrain, no doubt. It also affects directly the construction sector. So, with the slowdown in real estate business, you'll automatically have a slowdown in the construction sector. And the construction sector for us in Bahrain is not only a big sector, but it is also a large employer. And we'd like to keep the sector healthy so we don't end up losing more and more jobs. But over time, I'm not worried about real estate because it is something physical. I'm talking about residential now, not shopping malls. Some may argue that shopping malls are under threat because people are buying online and they have deliveries made to home. They don't need to rent shops and all that. But I'm talking about buildings, about homes, about apartments, hotels even. On the long run, they will recover. If you're in for a speculative game, it depends when you came in. If you came in at the boom and you're highly leveraged, then you have a serious problem that you have to deal with. But real estate is about, I remember one of the courses I took in college was about real estate management. And the first day, the professor came and he said, real estate is simply one word repeated 3 times. Location, location, location. And on the last day of the semester, when he was saying goodbye to everyone, he said, don't forget location, location, location. So if you're buying in the right place, it doesn't matter when you buy over time, if you're not leveraged high enough, then you will make money. But if you buy at the wrong place at the wrong time with high leverage, then God bless you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We totally agree. The location is the most important thing.
If you allow me, Feryal, I just want to comment on the question. Rashed, اسمح لي. We have the latest figures here that we are conducting a study recently on real estate and construction. Well, the latest figure that we have here, that in the first quarter of 2020, and real estate and construction, there is in fact a growth of 0.33% in the GDP. Correct? So we don't see that it's the most affected. The most affected sector is restaurants and hotels, and then comes in the next is transport, and at the same time 21% in electricity. So real estate, in fact, there is growth.
Yes.
I don't see where this, and in fact, this data is the source of it is from government.
Yes, but with people leaving, expatriates, because we have to be prepared for companies shutting down, for companies merging, and there will be layoffs, and people, especially the expatriates, will have to leave. A lot of them, there will be a lot of vacancies available on the market. The largest hit sector, trust me when I say this, is the aviation sector.
Exactly, I agree with you.
I mean, there we're you know, we're just frozen basically. We're lucky that in Bahrain we kept ticking, operating to a certain level. We were able, we flew every day from the beginning of the year till now to wherever there was an airport open. We have stopped at our lowest to 4 destinations, but we kept going. We kept Bahrain connected. We used our airline efficiently to do cargo, to do repatriation, to do medical supplies, and I think they've done a fantastic job in that sense, and I'd like to thank them for it. But real estate doesn't worry me. On the long run, it doesn't worry me because it's not a trendy thing.
It's not hardly affected.
And like you rightly said, it's in fact experiencing a slight growth.
Exactly. Yes.
That's good news then for whoever asked the question. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. I think Mr. Baybars wants to say something before we move to the next question. Please, Mr. Baybars.
Thank you, Feryal. I have just received to my WhatsApp that 410 unique participants joined today's roundtable from 76 countries. We see the number as around 170 generally, but of course going and coming back, but in total 410 unique participants. This is a very good number. And I think this is showing the interest of entrepreneurs to Bahrain and the region. They want to discover the opportunities in this region. And I saw from the comments that from Thailand to Botswana to Canada to Mexico, everybody like UNIDO meeting, let's say United Nations meeting, it became. I think His Excellency Feryal Nass pointed out a very important detail. He said September, October. These months are approaching. We will see the real damage of Mr. or Mrs. COVID for economies in September and October. I think Dr. Done will also touch to this issue, but business transformation in post-pandemic times will be a must from the smallest company to the biggest company. And when September came, and when SMEs and entrepreneurs start suffering from financial sources, how are we going to invite them to invest in digital transformation of their businesses? This will be a challenging, I think, landscape for our entrepreneurial ecosystem, not just in Bahrain, in all over the world, from the United States to Thailand. In our survey, for example, we made a survey, Mr. Minister, 2 months ago about the impacts of COVID in 81 countries. We understood that even in the United States now, there are 11 million students who have no access to the computer and internet. So we are talking about the importance of online education, online health services, the financial inclusion. But I think after COVID issue, I completely agree with Mr. Nass about the tough days are on the way. This is what we have to accept. This is not only for Bahrain, for Gulf region, for Middle East, or for Europe. This is for all over the world. I'm joining many roundtables around the world, from Mexico to Thailand. We are all talking about almost the same things. So, Mr. Minister, as a matter of fact, gave a very good answer. Collaborative approach. Collaborative approach will be very crucial to address the challenges of post-pandemic economies. This is just I wanted to share and thank to Mr. Minister, to Mr. Nass, and also to Mr. Governor about his statements about the importance of financial inclusion. To dear Hashim, for highlighting the importance of angel investment to fill the acute gap for startups in post-pandemic times. So I just wanted to state these things before the session ends and moving to Dr. Donay, because I think time is passing, and these are my last words, by the way. Thank you very much.
Feryal, if you just allow me a quick comment on what...
Of course, Your Excellency, of course.
First of all, the 410 participants, this is the power of Feryal. You have to know how powerful this lady is. We're lucky to have her in Bahrain. So
thank you very much.
I would thank her for that. One thing we shouldn't forget is what is unique about COVID is for the first time, the whole world is facing the same circumstances. It's not like the past where we had a slowdown in a certain region or a certain sector, you know, China is not doing well, or South America is not doing well, or we have an oil price and the Gulf countries are not doing well, or a war somewhere, or you know, Ebola or something. This is something that's affecting the whole world uniformly at the same time, and we are all suffering. For me, funny enough, that's in a way a comforting issue. It's like, I think, Paul, you're probably an academic and you'd relate to this. It's like if we all had a D grade in a class, they would curve up the average to B or A. So we're all in the same boat. It's not like somebody is in a better position than others. So people will have to work together. We see it today in the business sector. People are much more tolerant working with each other, sorting out their receivables, their payables, extending hands. Maybe last year, this time, you wouldn't be as patient collecting your debt, or the bank would not be as patient as getting your payments back. But it's coming because we're all together. So at the end of the day, you know, I re-emphasize, the more we work together, the quicker we come out of this together. It's not a time for somebody to be opportunistic. It's a time for somebody to be more humanitarian and to help somebody else.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. The next question is for His Excellency, Mr. Feryal Nass. We have a question from Africa, actually.
Africa.
Africa. As a president of the African Federation of the World Union of Small and Medium Enterprise, I would like to make an operative proposal. Bahrain has many opportunities, but are not known in Africa. Therefore, we would like to propose the organization of a meeting between Africa and Bahrain for the commercial exchange between the two countries. So this is the comment and this is the question from Africa. If you want to answer it, Mr. Nass.
First of all, I would like to thank the participants from Africa, and I welcome all African business community, and they are most welcome in Bahrain and the whole world. I think the participants from all over the world, I would like to welcome you to Bahrain to visit post-COVID-19 to come and see for yourself. Bahrain is open for business, and there are opportunities for conducting business trades in Bahrain as well as in the region, and Bahrain can be utilized as a hub. And I was really intrigued by a lot of in our past Arab investors conference in last October or November, there was participants from the UNDP in the conference from business communities from Africa that came to Bahrain, and they were impressed. And there was also a proposal that that we should promote a special exhibition for African countries in Bahrain to come and look at the opportunities of business and open up a line of businesses for African countries in Bahrain and vice versa. And I really welcome this opportunity, and I welcome the participants and the one that have conducted the questions, and invite them in Bahrain and work together and look at what we can do forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nass.
I just would like to comment here, Feryal. Yes, during the World Entrepreneurs Investment Forum, which was in parallel to the Arab Business Forum last year, the biggest delegation was from African entrepreneurs. And this has been happening from since 2015, the first wave, and then 2017 and 2019. Actually, when I said this program of going global, we are focusing a lot on sub-Saharan Africa, and this is through the Arab Bank for Development of Africa, where now in their 4 pillars strategy for 2030, for the first time they put entrepreneurship as a main pillar, and actually they are our counterpart and our partner to do this. So yes, I agree on Mr. Feryal Nass. We will do more and more because we know that there is a lot of business opportunities for Bahraini entrepreneurs to look into the whole region. Because when we say Bahraini entrepreneurs, we're always not focusing only in Bahrain. We're focusing on the GCC, so Arab countries up to Morocco, but then our business setup will be with sub-Saharan Africa. This is what we'll be working with BADIA for 2030. We're starting now with the G5 countries, which is Mauritania, Burkina Faso, Chad, and Niger, where we are developing the Bahrain model there. This Bahrain model will make a platform for entrepreneurs to do business together. African entrepreneurs are most welcome to work with Bahrain and out of Bahrain for the region and for the world.
Thank you, Dr. Hashim. The next question will be for Mr. Rashed. With the rise in financial technologies and crypto currencies and online payments, what policies does the CBB have to ensure the safety of SMEs and individuals' money?
Well, thank you. This is a very interesting and important question, because one of our pillars of licensing any activities is protection of the consumers. And I indicated earlier when I said what is our licensing policy, that ensuring protection of consumer affairs is a top priority for us. So we have a menu within our regulations that covers this aspect, that any new licensees should comply fully with the requirement of the CBB when it comes to the protection of consumer interests, the confidentiality of the information, how is the money or the financial advice provided, what are the qualification of the people involved in offering this kind of service, these are the things that we have to ensure for any licensee to operate within our regulatory regimes. On top of that, there is the, obviously, which is in the mind of everyone, is the cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is an evolving thing, and it is becoming a major issue for everyone. So we ensure regular penetration tests. The technical platform should be assessed by third parties in order to ensure that there is all the controls in place. There is the redundancy within the platform in terms of business continuity. So these are the things that will hopefully minimize the damage from any kind of unsolicited threats or intervention in any kind of technical solutions.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The next question, and it is the last question, and sorry to take you so long today, but it is a very interesting discussion that we are having. And then we will end up with the closing remarks from Mr. Paul. So the last question would be for Dr. Hashim. What does the public sector and private sector and NGOs need to do to overcome the challenges and difficulties brought about the COVID-19? How do you foresee the three partners working together to bring support programs, both in terms of financial and non-financial to SMEs in Bahrain and the region?
Thank you. Well, I would like
a brief answer for that.
Thank you. I would like also to announce my telephone, my WhatsApp didn't stop getting messages from Mexico to Spain, to France, to Italy, to Turkey, to India, to Mali, to Chad, talking about these global entrepreneurs and how, because, we have big followers within the Bahrain model. As I said, the Bahrain model today is in more than 52 countries, from Uruguay to China, to India, to Turkey, to Italy, to almost all the Arab countries and a big number in sub-Saharan African countries. When we say the Bahrain model, Bahrain have been giving us the base, yes. It's a small country, but very dynamic, very vibrant. When you see, as you can see today, from the discussion, the transparency, from the Chamber of Commerce, which is the advocate of the private sector, from the Minister of Industry, which of course represent the government in a way or another, and also the central bank. You see how transparent and how the discussion is happening. The same thing we're enjoying as the UN. And of course, bringing the NGO, which is, we can say, Feryal Nass, with her entrepreneurs organization in Bahrain, it's an NGO. So even in the webinar, we're having NGOs, we're having the private sector, and we're having the public sector, and we as the UN, as an international UN agency, we are also part of that setup. Yes, actually, as I have mentioned, when we have been looking on the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals 2030, we have been realizing that there is a tremendous gap and challenge facing developing countries. And that, as I said, the yearly gap is about $250 trillion. Okay, this is if we want to bring everything into order. This wouldn't be happening from the government. The government cannot do that. We need the private sector, we need the financial institutions, and we need the advocate of the NGOs to be part of that. Nowadays, the NGOs, they play a very important role in even supporting governments and private sector, especially if we talk about NGOs related to entrepreneurs. We are realizing these entrepreneurs nowadays, more and more, they are part of the policies and strategies of government and of countries, because they are the vibrant, they are the dynamo of that. In Bahrain, we have a very interesting case here, because with the economic restructuring plan of His Majesty King Hamad 20 years back, he has put the youth in the forefront of taking the economic apparatus of this country, that they should be part of the ecosystem. And this has been happening over the years, and bringing all the stakeholders from the different government bodies. okay? And the private sector, of course, presented from the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and a number of NGOs, organizations and associations working together. We are realizing this is what have improved more and more the ecosystem for entrepreneurship and innovation in Bahrain. This is the only way that we work in facing this COVID and the post-COVID. And as I said, the post-COVID is taking us, bridging us to the digital revolution, which we started to feel how it is happening in the region. You know, the digital revolution, it is expected that millions of jobs will be lost if you don't have the right strategy, the right plans from education to the different support ecosystem planners to ensure that they have a safety transition to the digital revolution. So public, private partnership, and NGOs, mainly related to SMEs and related to entrepreneurship. It is not a charity anymore. It is not just philosophy. It became a reality. And as I say, we can ascertain it today, just in this webinar, that we have the three parties working together. Also, organizations like WBAF, you know, you can say they're an NGO, you can say they're a lobbyist group, you can say they're an international association to improve the ecosystem and enhancement, but in the area of financial inclusion. All of this will work together. And here I would like to say again for the audience from worldwide, because of course this is recorded and of course it can be listened to more and more. There is going to be a very important add value to the WBAF activities, which has became an instrumental and integral partner in the ecosystem with the Global Entrepreneurs Congress, with the Creative Cup, with the International Society of SMEs, with the World Entrepreneurs Investment Forum. Those are the big international players when it comes to enhancing the ecosystem. But coming to Bahrain and doing it in Bahrain, for Bahrain and the region to the world, we are going to learn a lot. We are going to ensure within the SDGs, Bahrain will report how we manage to ensure we are getting into financial inclusion for micro and small business. I would like to thank again, especially the government and the private sector, of course, represented here by His Excellency the Minister and Mr. Feryal Nass, and of course, Mr. Miraaj. But I would like to thank Baybars that he have been seeing what's been happening in Bahrain over the last 8-9 years, and how you have been inspired about Bahrain, and how I have seen you in the international arena worldwide. You have always been mentioning and talking about Bahrain. Yani, كلمة حق. This is, I have to say it in front of all these panelists. Always you have been talking very good and positive about Bahrain, and inshallah we'll do our best.
Thank you, Dr. Hashim. Thank you so much. Now we will give the floor for Mr. Paul to give us a closing remark, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Feryal. Your Excellency Zayani said something very interesting. First of all, he referred to me as an academic, which I am not, and I used to be, but I'd like to get back to you on that. You said something extremely important in this conversation, and I'll get to everybody one by one. When you said that this COVID situation affects the whole world in the same way. This is the most important observation of the situation that the whole world has faced compared to the last one, which was due to an American problem that hit the world. Or if it's a pandemic, it was hitting only a part of the world. This is the reason why this is, again, is a unique opportunity despite the dilemma that, that the world is actually going through. And for Your Excellency also, Feryal Nass, that I have followed with interest the sectors in which you are operating. And I would like to congratulate actually the efforts of what Bahrain has done to this time, when you are all observing something extremely important, that an oil price war started at a time when the demand for oil was suddenly suppressed by the coronavirus. And again, thankfully, that danger is now behind us just in this short period of time. It's not completely away, but at least that is behind us. And that has a very, very major effect on the region, given the obvious effect relating to the price of oil, and again, the implications of that. And I think for His Excellency, Mr. Al-Miraaj, in relation to central bank pressures today, which are the unknown pressures. Most people don't know the pressure that central banks are having to go through in these difficult periods. And by that, we are talking about the advanced world as well. It's a very major, major challenge to balance the expansions that they need to do, which are, of course, having a major impact on local currencies, pegged or unpegged. So it's a major, major challenge. And to Dr. Hussein, thank you very much. And also in particular to the efforts that you are doing to thank everybody. How I can just add something to kind of like try to put together the importance of what you said, everybody. My brother Baybars Bey told me one time about a trip he made to Bahrain. And I had not been to Bahrain for for actually a very long time myself due to my work. The last time I went to Bahrain must have been maybe 30 years ago on a business. And he told me something very interesting. And he told me that he was telling to his Bahraini friends the importance of angel investments and the tax incentives, and was told, actually, that's not a challenge in this market. So you know what, to tell you something, Yani, if you are in a high tax environment where we are, for example, where the income tax is around 40% here, and the government needs to incentivize people to invest a part of their money, this is a very, very important part. But let's go to the countries where the tax is very low anyway. Now, what returns are the people who have money getting? We heard with interest Your Excellency talking about, for example, real estate will be affected because you are going to expect a drop in your population. We have seen also, for example, some recent data I have seen from what Kuwait is expecting, what the Gulf is expecting, for example. Now, that is going to have an effect on a sector, but to the people who are speculators or even the people who are investing to hold, if they cannot get a return on their money, why don't they all become angel investors? Especially if there is no tax disincentive. I mean, we need an incentive where we are, okay? And if the government here in Turkey at least have done some measures in that direction some time back. So what is important for the next level now, other than what central banks can do, because they have a limitation, we have to understand and respect their limitation. We also have to understand the limits of fiscals, because in the end, governments can only borrow so much, you see, it's going to affect. So people have to live within their means. What is the single human nature that always faces us is that the human being never ever does what they have to do or should do unless they really have no other choice. This is the way we are. So if you're a company that must do digital transformation, I'll do it next year. I don't have a budget. Let me spread some dividends, you see? And now they got smacked with this situation. And again, this is smacking everybody at the same time. So it's not that bad. If we are 5 competitors in the market, not one of us is going to be able to digitize right now if none of us have yet, okay? So again, even at a local level, that has a positive effect, but not forever. So this important situation that we are now facing, given that everybody is in the same situation, offers an opportunity for us. Number one, return on money is going to be very, very low. If you take low risk and you buy fixed income, zero risk, you're going to get nothing. In our region here, if we benchmark the last bonds, 10-year bonds issued by governments, last one I think was Emirates, Qatar did also, and Saudi did 2 of them. One of them was in euro. I was very impressed with the Saudi euro bond also to choose that currency, 10-year. The effective rates of these are around 4.5% to 5%, 10-year coupon. Okay, let's take that as a measure. If you invest in the first world, you're going to get 0, 0.5, 0. If you invest in this part, you're going to get around 5. Turkey, by the way, is around the same. 10-year bond in US dollar here, government, is actually around 5% as well. So let's take that number. So one, you can invest in your government, give them your money, and get 5%. Yeah? invest in your government. The government needs money. That's one choice, right? If that's too low for you, then why not? People have to make investments. If you just buy stock and do all those things, we all know what it means, because the yield on stock is dropping down to 3% even. If you get 5%, you're lucky. So that means that we need to encourage people to make investments at the level that they are capable of doing, SMEs at their level, angel investors, and give them the incentives to invest. If it's not taxed, it's another incentive, okay? For example, if I make 4 or 5 investments, one of them works and 4 of them don't work, I cannot set my losses against my gains. You see, it's very important if you're taxed. Now, that is the reason I am saying, from all the things that you have said, which are very important, I singled one thread going forward, that we are going to survive this Mr. COVID or Miss COVID or whoever this COVID is. We're going to survive it, but some companies will not recover to what they were forever. They will never get back to what they were 2019. Some companies will get back to 2019 maybe in 3 years, if they're lucky, and we know what the sectors are. And there are others that will have a dip and they will come back to whatever level they are. Here is the chance for governments to actually encourage in any manner that they can for people, private money, to invest, not coming to the governments and tell us, give us money. I was very interested to hear you say, you know, that people are coming to the Chamber of Commerce as companies and asking for their help. Yeah, actually the people who need help are people, not companies. And thanks to you, you are helping people to earn salary, because they are the helpless people. Companies are not helpless. An employee is helpless. He can be fired, he has nothing. Companies are not helpless. They can borrow money, they can get equity, they can partner, they can merge. They have many choices. Coming to you is not a choice. That's not a choice, okay? They must deal with it themselves, actually. And of course, there are sectors where you have to help, and you are doing exactly the right thing, like all countries are. Number one, in the US, public debt to GDP in the US now is already over 110%. US dollar is down 8% against a basket of equivalent currencies just in the last period. That's US dollar, and they are supposed to be the most powerful economy in the world. Yeah? So everybody's suffering, and we will survive it. So let's work together and let's encourage investments at all scale, small scale, medium scale, and large scale. Business transformation, since Baybars' brother mentioned that, I'll just give it 20 seconds. Business transformation is not only digital, it means companies need to transform what they do. They cannot do the next 5 years what they did the last 5 years, even if Corona had no effect on them, okay? So everybody needs to know, by the way, Adha Mubarak to all of you, this is the future. The future is that people should not come to their governments for help. You must help the helpless, which are the people, the human, not the corporate. The corporate, you incentivize them to borrow, help them in that way, but they need to pay it back, you see? They must. This is very important. Now, of course, Germany supports their airline. I'm not talking about those extreme cases, yeah? Okay, clearly airlines, they need something. Forget those, you see? So we will survive it, work together. Thanks to all of you for your efforts. And, you know, inshallah, things will get better, inshallah.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Thank you. And on behalf of the WBAF Bahrain, I would like to extend our gratitude to all our high-level speakers, His Excellency Minister of Industry, Commerce and Tourism, Mr. Zayed Alzayani, His Excellency Mr. Feryal Nass, Chairman of GCC Chambers and Bahrain Chamber of Commerce and Industry, His Excellency Mr. Rashed and Miraaj, Governor of CBB, and His Excellency Dr. Hashim Hussein, UNIDO Head, and of course His Excellency Mr. Baybars Altuntas, Chairman of WBAF, and of course Mr. Paul Downey. Thank you very much for your closing remarks. Thank you all for being patient with us tonight. It's a very long webinar, but we are really honored to have you all, and you really enriched the discussion, and hopefully we will meet with you in future webinars, inshallah. Thank you very much, and Eid Adha Mubarak to all of you.
And to you. Thank you very much. Good night.
It's 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
Good night. So.